Could you imagine a banana being afraid of it? Could you imagine a sandwich wanting to make you cry? What about lying to your family about actually eating? What I'm talking about are considered to be eating disorders. And NHS.UK states that eating disorders can affect someone physically, sociologically, mentally, and socially. Now, I've had first-hand experience and I've done a research on this topic. And I think that this information is going to be very good for you in the future if you ever come into contact with an eating disorder. So today I want to talk to you about anorexia, bulimia, and the treatments that can go with this disorder. Anorexia is a desire to stay thin and lose mass amounts of weight. According to UMM.edu, anorexia most commonly affects teens, as many as 3 in 100. Defined in 1873 by Sir William Gill, many discoveries have since then been made. Now, it is important to understand that anorexics see themselves as overweight, despite being very thin. And if asked, they will pick out fat spots on their body where they see themselves as fat, even though that's obviously not the case. Now, what causes anorexia? There are chemicals in the brain that can alter chemical perception and mind perception of exactly what they see themselves as. Now, of course, there's the media, television, magazines, movies. They all portray the actors in them as beautiful and thin as perfect, which leads a person with anorexia to seek perfection, physical perfection, not mental perfection, as it's a totally different subject. Now, how can you tell if somebody has an eating disorder? There are many ways to tell if somebody has anorexia, despite just being very thin, which is the obvious choice. They often complain that they're cold, even when they have many layers on. And that's a lack of not eating, which is a lack of insulation because they're very thin. They say that they're not hungry, they push food around their plate, they cut food into tiny pieces, they already said that they ate, and they refuse to eat in public, and they excessively exercise to the point where it's hours and hours for days and days. And they often complain from being weak, which is a result of lack of caloric intake and a lack of energy that they have from the excessive exercise. Now, what are the consequences? There's osteoporosis, which is bone loss, cardiac issues, menstrual issues. They suffer from mood changes, and perhaps one of the most drastic consequences of anorexia is death. Now, anorexia is known as a starvation disease. Bulimia, on the other hand, is very different from anorexia. Bulimics seek to maintain their weight. They're not obsessed on losing mass amounts of weight, they want to maintain their control of their weight. And this is happened by vomiting, or more commonly, binging and purging. And what this means is they binge on a whole bunch of food and they purge it or vomit. Now, according to womenshealth.gov, people with bulimia typically eat large amounts of high-calorie foods, usually in secret. That means cheeseburgers, candy, all the stuff that really isn't healthy for you. Now, what causes bulimia? Well, there's low self-esteem, depression, many bulimics suffer from loneliness, and of course a misrepresentation of their body image. And it's also a way to control their life. Many bulimics see that their life is out of control, and they think that the amount of food they eat and what they do with their food is one way that they can control one aspect of their life. Now, what are the symptoms? It's harder to tell a bulimic from an anorexic because bulimics can really mask their disease because they're not overly thin. But there are symptoms. Like anorexics, bulimics exercise excessively. They exercise a lot, also hours and hours and hours on end. They take laxatives as a way to purge the food from their body. They fast for days and days and days, which builds up to them purging and binging at the same time. They complain of sore throat because of the vomiting. They have a lot of bloating, and they visit the bathroom frequently, perhaps to purge all the food that they ate. What are the consequences? Many bulimics suffer from teeth rotting because of the constant vomiting. They complain of stomach ulcers because of disruption with their chemicals. They often have dehydration, and they have cardiac and throat issues, and of course, they can also suffer from death, much like anorexics. Now, if you do experience a situation with anorexia and bulimia, you should really know the treatments for the disease. It's important to know that treatment for anorexia or bulimia is important because it's very hard to get over this disease with or without treatment, but treatment can only help the person. Now, it's recommended for intense therapy, individual or group settings, and if it is affordable, rehab. Yes, rehab can be very expensive, but I say it is affordable because it most likely will help the person overcome more because they will be at a setting where it's all much better for them and they have professionals and they can constantly be there. There's inpatient, outpatient rehab. And it is also recommended that they meet with a nutritionist in order to help them get their weight back on track, how they can eat back on track, and learn how to correctly eat to maintain their healthy body weight and their healthy, normal food intake. Now that I told you all this, could you see how eating a banana could be a challenge for some and they could be afraid of it? Now, my research has helped me to understand and learn more about these diseases and understand why anorexic or bulimics do what they do. Now, if you suspect somebody that actually has this disease, you can actually help them and you know what to do and you know what they're going through. These are complex disorders and they can't be just overthrown waywardly. I hope you guys have learned anything today. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Do celebrities have eating disorders?
Actually, celebrities do have eating disorders. They very hide them, but there have been some celebrities that came out, such as Mary-Kate Olsen. She had anorexia. She was in the magazines, and she was very public with her disorder. Anything else?
You said that most teens have eating disorders. Does that mean boys have eating disorders?
Anorexia is most common in girls, but yes, boys have eating disorders. And I think Harrison Ford actually made a joke that he was boylemic, not bulimic, because it is more seen in girls. But yes, boys do have eating disorders too.
And are there any other types of eating disorders other than anorexia and bulimia?
One of the most commonly known eating disorders besides anorexia and bulimia is called pica, which means they eat unnatural, not food products such as chalk, toilet paper, crayons, sand, anything really. Anything else? Nope. Okay, just fill the audience one more time. Thank you.